So, what we're going to do today, I have 30 minutes with you, which is very, very short. But for the first half, I'm going to talk. I'm going to give a short lecture on language learning. And in the second half, you're going to talk, okay? I know you might feel a little bit shy. Maybe you don't know anybody. That's normal. This is what it's like to take a class at a university, talking to people for the first time. That's important to get more comfortable at speaking, okay? So, first half, I will talk. Second half, I will relax, and you will talk, okay? But it's not that difficult, so don't worry. Okay, so let's begin with a short lecture on language learning, and I'm going to talk about balanced language learning, okay? Now, I assume all of you have been studying English for many years. You have taken lots of English classes. You may have different levels of experience, and that's good. But I want you to think about how you learned English. Think about the classes you've taken, the types of activities you've done, the things that you have done to learn English. Maybe you read a lot of books, maybe you study a lot of vocabulary or grammar. I just want you to think about your experience up until now. And we're going to see if it's balanced or not, okay? So, first let's talk about the difference between knowledge and skill. Knowledge is information that you can collect and memorize and put into your head, right? And then skill, of course, is the ability to do something. These are two very different things. But it's not A or B. They're mixed together, of course. You need skills to work with knowledge, and you need knowledge to build skills, okay? But if you go to university and you decide you want to study something like history, literature, biology, chemistry, sociology, economics, any of these topics, this is primarily knowledge. Reading lots of books, learning lots of stuff, memorizing lots of facts, right? That's knowledge. Of course, you do need advanced academic skills to do this. You have to be able to read lots of books. You have to be able to write a lot and enjoy it. Skills are things that are more like sports, visual art, dance, music, cooking, and language, right? Language is more of a skill than knowledge. Of course, you do need knowledge for these skills. You need to know, like, how to cook, what to cook in order to do it well. And the same goes for language. You have to have vocabulary, you have to have grammar, but it's primarily a skill. So I want you to think about language the same way that you think about sports, right? Now, let's take an example with sports of soccer. Maybe some of you play soccer, maybe not. In order to play soccer well, there are lots of different skills that you need. Okay, so here's some of them. You need technique. This is like ball control, using your feet, passing, dribbling, receiving, and shooting. You need to be fitness. You need to have fitness. You need to exercise a lot. You have to have endurance, balance, coordination, speed, and strength. And you have to have game intelligence, like how to play the game, strategy, tactics, things like that. So there's lots of different skills that are involved. And these need to be balanced. You have to learn all of these things. If you only practice passing, if that's all you do, you will not be good at soccer. You have to do more than just pass the ball all the time, right? So you have to practice all of these different things. Language is the same, right? You can't just memorize words. You can't just learn grammar. That's not enough. You have to do many different things to become good at speaking English. So we're going to talk about balanced language learning. This comes from a person named Paul Nation, who is very famous in my field, called the 4 strands. So let's get into it. I've got 4 different colored boxes up here. These are the 4 main skills, not skills, 4 main areas of language study. Okay? Now, when I explain these, I want you to think about yourself and your experience. Okay? So, the first one, when you think about language learning, you probably think about this. This is called language-focused learning. Language-focused learning, okay? That means that you are actually learning specific language features, like grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation, right? So if you use a grammar book, if you use a vocabulary book, if you use flashcards to study, things like that, that is language-focused learning. And when you think about language learning, you probably think about this. But we have 3 others that are very important, okay? So of course, language-focused learning is very big. The second one is called meaning-focused input. Input. We have two words, input, output. So you see we've got the arrow going in, meaning-focused input. Input is going to be the receptive skills, receptive, to receive, right? The receptive skills are listening and reading. This is when language goes into your brain. You listen to language, you read language. It is going from the outside inside, okay? So that's meaning-focused input, listening and reading. This is things like extensive reading, reading books, listening to stories, watching TV, movies, and YouTube in English, or being a listener in a conversation, right? How much of this do you do? Maybe a little bit. This is also very, very important though, okay? Now, like I said, meaning-focused input, meaning-focused output. We have the arrow going out. So this is the productive skills of English. Productive means when you are making language, that would be speaking and writing. The language is coming out of you into the world, okay? So productive skills. This would be activities like having a conversation, giving a speech or a lecture, like what I'm doing right now, writing a letter, writing a journal, or telling a story in English. これもどれぐらいやってる? How much of this do you do, right? Okay, now there's one more, my favorite. This is called fluency development. This is one maybe you haven't thought about. Fluency develop is using what you already know to communicate. This is just like exercising. Using what you already have, the words, the grammar that you already know, and just using it more to communicate. Okay, so again, think about your own English learning. And I want you to talk to your group members a little bit. I know you don't know each other. You're a little shy. That's okay. Which of these do you think you do the most? この中一番やってるはどれと思う? ちょっとだけグループと話して日本語でどうぞ. Okay, so now when you take a class in English, you don't have a whole lot of time. And so in a usual English class, of course, they're going to focus on this, language-focused learning, grammar, vocabulary. Some of these other things, they're kind of your responsibility to do outside of the class, especially over here. Listening and, learning through receptive skills. So reading books, watching TV, listening to stories, things like that. That's something you can do by yourself. So I think a lot of you, when you think about your own English language learning balance, it probably looks like this, right? Everyone, yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at this really quick. The main focus is then on language-focused learning, lots of grammar, lots of vocabulary, lots of books, lots of tests, right? And then these get a bit smaller, and これほとんどない. Fluency development is very, very small, almost nothing, right? So, to actually be good at speaking a language, at learning a language, at using a language, we have to bring these back into balance, okay? So that's something for you to remember. Yes, grammar and vocabulary are important. それ4分の1. That's just one part of it. That's not the most important thing, okay? We want to try to bring this back into balance. And as I showed you before, since fluency development is often the smallest, that's my favorite. That's what I like to do. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try a fluency development activity, okay? So you can see what it's like to just work on fluency. Just work on getting more comfortable speaking English using what you already have, okay? Okay, so let me explain a little bit more what fluency development involves. Okay, so fluency development, in order to do this right, there's a few rules. The first thing is we need to have familiar language. This means English or language that you already know. I'm not going to teach you any grammar. I'm not going to teach you any vocabulary. I want you to use what you have in your head. Okay, that's the whole point. It's It's not about learning new stuff, it's about using what you have, okay? Use the English that you already have, okay? Next, the focus is on communication. Communication. Now, what does that mean? Communication means to understand someone and to be understood, okay? You want to understand the other person, and you want to make sure the other person understands you. So to understand and to be understood. Very, very important. That means you don't have to be perfect. If you make a grammar mistake today, I don't care. Not important. The focus is on communication. You can make mistakes and still be understood, right? So that's another thing. A lot of Japanese students feel shy. I don't want to make a mistake, right? But it doesn't matter. Communication, just the meaning, that's all that matters. You can make mistakes. That's part of learning, okay? Now, the next one is time pressure. This is the scary part. In order to improve your fluency, you need some kind of pressure, some kind of time pressure, okay? So something like a time limit where you have pressure to speak faster than usual, okay? If you have as much time as you want, you're gonna talk slowly, you're gonna take your time and think about things. We don't wanna do that. We want time pressure. You have to communicate as quickly as you can, okay? Even if you can't do that well, that's okay. It's only about getting better at this. And then finally, the last part of fluency development is lots of input, lots of output. So that means lots of listening and lots of speaking. And we're gonna do that today, okay? So that's it for my lecture on language learning, balanced language learning. Hopefully you understand a little bit better what you need to do to improve your language skills. And now we're gonna try that, okay? We're going to